Hello and welcome to another Manga Spotlight. Today's series is Ghost Fixers by Yasuki Tanaka. And this is a brand new series on Shonen Jump Plus. The very first chapter just came out last week, and the second chapter just came out today at the time of this recording. So yeah, brand new, only 2 chapters out right now. And the basic summary is, following a certain events, Mikurigaoka New Town transformed into a crucible of supernatural phenomenon known as ghosts. In said town lives Hifumi, a middle school boy who one day encounters a girl who just moved in. Help correct the supernatural in this action-packed tale from Yasuki Tanaka, creator of Summertime Rendering. I've never read Summertime Rendering, but I have watched the anime and I thought it was pretty good. Yeah, basically we take place in this town. I'm just going to call it New Town because that's the nickname that they give it. And New Town doesn't appear on any maps, or I should say its actual name doesn't appear on any maps. Instead, every other place just refers to it as Ghost Town. And the reason for that is because this is the headquarters for the Correction Bureau. And the Correction Bureau is the company that employs ghost fixers. And ghost fixers are people that fight ghosts. So kind of think of them like Ghostbusters. There's this equipment called CIS, C-I-S. And what CIS does is it monitors the town, and what it monitors is distortions. So usually when everything's normal, CIS will be at 0, but then when something abnormal happens, it dips into the negatives. So it'll be like -1, 2, 3, so on and so forth. The stronger the ghost, the stronger the distortion, the stronger the negative number. Because in this world, ghosts will distort objects and locations and settings and things like that. Yeah, basically one time a giant ghost came with a bunch of other ghosts and killed a bunch of people, like 50,000 people. Almost 51,000 people died in this town. About like 13,000 went missing. Regular humans pretty much evacuated the town. The only people that live in New Town now are people that work for the Correction Bureau and their family. Hence why it's called Ghost Town. Our main character, his name is Hifumi. Well, there's 2 main characters. There's Hifumi and there's Kirarazaka, who I'm just going to refer to as Kira, because saying Kirarazaka over and over again is going to be tough. But we just have Kira chilling out in a apartment building. And basically, he is looking at this YouTube podcast with VTubers. And this is where we get like a lot of world building information, because these 2 VTubers are obsessed with ghosts and the supernatural. And so every chapter we start off with them talking about like the newest ghost thing. And that's kind of how we start to learn more and more about this world. Like in chapter 2, they start talking about the Correction Bureau and the ghosts and why they're called ghost fixers and the whole like CIS thing and how that works. Well, in chapter 1, they talk about the cut-all blade. And it is a toy blade made out of plastic that just has the words cut all scribbled in permanent marker. And the thing is that once this toy blade is taken out of its plastic sheath, it can cut anything once. So if like, you slash something, you slash a table, it'll cut it. But then if you try to slash a chair, it won't cut it. It'll just be like a plastic sword until you put it back in the sheet and take it out again. So it'll cut through anything as long as if you put it back in the sheet and take it out. So you basically almost kind of have to like reload this sword. And Hifumi is just watching this on his phone when Kira shows up, and they both enter into this elevator, and this little girl shows up with them. Hifumi closes the elevator doors, presses his number, asks what number Kira wants, presses her number, asks what number the little girl wants. The little girl doesn't say anything. She's just quiet. So Hifumi's like, all right, whatever. And he just continues watching his little VTubers. As he's watching, the elevator suddenly stops. And they think, oh man, they're going to be trapped down in here. And Hifumi's like, all right, well, whatever. I'm just going to chill out. And so Kira decides, hey, why don't we share like stuff with each other? And Kira shares that she's a ghost fixer. She just recently moved into town. She comes from a long line of ghost fixers. The Kirarazaka is actually her last name. Her first name is Mocha. And her line comes from a line of like shamans that have fought ghosts since all the way back to the times when ghosts were referred to as yokai. And so we're basically setting up that she's going to be our ghost fixer in this series. And Hifumi is like our regular normal dude that gets involved in all this. And Kira asks like Hifumi if he's like, interested in ghosts and things like that. And the little girl like interrupts him, says, "Do you think that a ghost caused the elevator to stop?" And Kira's like, "Well, if that's the case, like, don't worry. I'm a ghost fixer. I can take care of this." And yeah, Hifumi starts eventually freaking out because he has to go to the bathroom. And he's stuck in this elevator with two girls, so he doesn't want to like piss in front of them. So he's hoping that the elevators start working. And eventually the elevators do work, but rather than going to their floor, it just drops. And not only does it drop, but it starts dropping like towards the basement. And so we have this like interesting thing where the two characters grab the little girl, and right before the elevator hits the floor, they jump. So it's like this whole myth that if you're in a fallen elevator and the elevator's dropping, right before it hits the ground, jump up, and that'll like cushion the impact, which doesn't actually work. I think they were saying like the best thing you can do is if you have like a bunch of like luggage, put it on the floor and then lay your body flat on it so that like the luggage will take most of the impact, and then like whatever impact comes to you will be distributed equally throughout your body. That's kind of just, I guess, trivia information for you guys. They come into this room that shouldn't exist because this building doesn't have a basement, but they're somehow in the basement. And they step outside, and the entire floor is weird. Like, it doesn't look like a basement. It looks like almost like an office building, except there's nobody around. And the little girl is gone. And so they're like, okay, like maybe we should go find her. The elevator's not working. So they're like, okay, well, I'm going to go off and I'm going to step off the elevator. I got to go find a bathroom. Kira's like, no, we should stay in the elevator because this is probably a ghost phenomenon and we shouldn't be exploring because that's dangerous. But Hifumi's like, I really got to take a piss. And, there's a chance that there might be a restroom down here. So I'm going to go. So they start exploring, and eventually they come across a body. Or I should say, they come across the clothing that used to belong to somebody, but there's no body there. It's just like a suit, socks, shoes, and a message scribbled on the wall that says, I can't get out, I can't get out. This is the abstract dimension. The parent and child are coming. That room is no doubt the stomach. I will become a part of them. And then that's when they check the body and they realize that this is a ghost fixer. So this was someone that was coming down here to take care of this ghost and failed. He ended up getting killed. And so they're like, well, what are we going to do? And then that's when they see the little girl. And the little girl, we have like this pretty cool transition scene where we see her holding like a diorama. And then all of a sudden the room switches so that Hifumi and Kira are inside the diorama. And the diorama is basically like a kitchen. And then the two characters, it looks like they're shrinking, but basically they're inside this girl's diorama, and the girl's a ghost. And the room that they're in starts like secreting this liquid and starts absorbing them. And the two characters, like their body starts to go numb as this like liquid is on them. And basically what they realize is that they are inside this ghost's stomach. And what's happening is that they're being digested slowly. And that's what happened to the original ghost fixer. He melted because he was in a stomach and he got digested. And so they're like, oh, this ghost is going to kill us. You got to do something. And so Kira takes out her briefcase and she says a number, 387, and that releases a gun. And in chapter 2, we get to see like more of what this briefcase is. This is her ghost. So every ghost fixer has basically like a ghost that works for them. And Kira's is this briefcase. And the briefcase is actually kind of cool. What it is that she can hold any object inside the briefcase and then pull it out by putting the number code. So for example, in this case, she has a gun stored inside the briefcase and she says 387 and the gun comes out. She can put her lunch inside and put like 1, 2, 3, and then when she puts that number into the briefcase, her lunch will come out. So she can store whatever objects she wants, and she just has to give it a code. And then later on, whenever she puts in that code, that object will come out. So she can store like up to almost 1,000 objects because this briefcase has 3 digits on it. So I was like, that's pretty awesome. This is basically almost like unlimited stash. But yeah, she basically pulls out a gun and she just starts blasting. So I'm like, Kira, did you come from America? Is that where your family was raised? I just think it's awesome. Like, 'cause a lot of times you see like in manga and stuff that they're using like talismans or like ofudas or spiritual like weapons or whatever. And Kira's like, nope. She just busts out a machine gun from her briefcase and she starts blasting and just starts shooting everything. Because she's like, well, we're in this thing's stomach. If I start shooting it, it's going to do damage. And it is doing damage. Like as she shoots the walls, we see that it starts bleeding. She's like, okay, well, we just got to wreak havoc on this thing's stomach. If we just keep blasting in, just keep damaging its stomach, it's going to throw us up. So she just starts blasting away. Meanwhile, Hifume's like, okay, I'll leave this to you. I got to go. And then he dashes to the toilet because he needs to go. So we just have Kira blasting away with her gun while Hifume is taking a dump. And eventually, at some point, she's able to shoot through the stomach and hit the ghost girl in the head, which brings them back into the basement. So they're no longer in the living room kitchen area that the stomach was. They're now inside the basement. So still like a ghost area, but it's not the stomach. And that's when the little girl like calls for her daddy. And her daddy is just like this giant weird collection of bodies. So basically what happens is the ghost girl is leading people down to the basement, feeding them into the stomach, and then the body that gets dissolved in the stomach meshes into like this pile of other bodies. So all the victims basically become a part of quote unquote daddy. And so daddy arrives and grabs Kira and starts choking her. And that's when we realize that Hifumi is not just a regular dude. He's also a ghost fixer. And so Hifumi is the owner of the cut-all sword. So the sword that the two VTubers were talking about earlier, that's Hifume's ghost. He has a plastic toy sword that can cut anything, and it can just keep cutting anything as long as if he keeps shooting it and taking it out. And so he cuts Daddy in one slice. With Daddy dead, the ghost is destroyed, and the two characters are able to go back into the elevator where they're able to go back to their floor where they see a bunch of other Correction Bureau officers. That's pretty much like the first chapter. I don't want to explain the second chapter because I think you should check it out for yourself. But this is like a really interesting series. I love the fact that it sets up that Kira is the ghost fixer and Hifumi is just a regular dude. It kind of tricks you in that way. At least it tricked me. Like the whole time I was thinking, oh, so this is going to be like one of those things where Hifumi, like as a kid, he witnessed the ghost attack on New Town. And since then, he's like been able to, I guess, see ghosts, or he has a fascination with ghosts, but he doesn't know how to handle them. And then this girl shows up and she's a ghost fixer and he somehow gets involved in her adventures. And that's how the story's going to go. Nope. It turns out that he's actually a ghost fixer and he's actually a pretty good one at that. The only reason he wasn't doing much earlier was because he really needed to go to the bathroom. And also he kind of wanted to see what the ghost was going to do. So he kind of already had like an idea that something was going off when this girl showed up in the elevator. And so he wanted to see what the ghost was going to do. He also kind of wanted to see how Kira would handle the situation. So I kind of like that. I like the fact that we don't just have this dumb male character who basically is, you know, crying or whining or scared about everything. And it's this girl who shows up that does everything for him. I've seen stories like that and I don't really mind them at times. Like The Dark Gathering kind of has that somewhat, but I really like that series. So I was like, okay, I've seen this before, whatever, it's fine. But yeah, then they switch and they're like, nope, Hifumi is actually a ghost fixer and he's actually a really good one. He ends up saving the day. So while Kira gets him out of the stomach, he's the one that destroys the ghost itself. I was like, okay, that's kind of cool that we have both of our main characters are ghost fixers. Like that, I was not expecting. And I like the whole idea of like this town got like obliterated by ghosts, and now the only people that live there are basically like Ghostbusters. Only here they're called ghost fixers, but yeah, it would basically be like if there was a city and only Ghostbusters and Ghostbuster family members lived there. I like the idea of like when ghosts show up, they distort and warp reality in their area, like wherever their hunting ground is, the landscape changes to fit. It basically like becomes like a trap. So like in this case, the ghost was able to lure people into elevators. It was just like a regular elevator, but the distortion comes when it's able to bring them down to a floor that doesn't exist. Like, okay, that's cool. I like that. I like the whole like warping and distorting reality. Like, that's really awesome. I find it interesting that the ghost fixers are using other ghosts as weapons. And I like the idea for the weapons. Like, yeah, Hifumi has a ghost sword. I was kind of expecting that at some point because, you know, every time when you get like a ghost fighting series or a demon fighting series when it comes to manga, usually someone has to use a demonic or ghost sword to deal with the creatures. But I like the fact that it's just a regular toy plastic sword that can cut anything, but it needs to be reloaded by putting it back in its sheet and taking it out. Like that's kind of interesting. I really do like Kiro's weapon though. Like just the idea of having this briefcase that can store 999 objects and you just got to remember the number. Like that's kind of cool. And just the fact that she's storing a gun. Like her very first instinct when she's being swallowed by a ghost is to pull out a gun and start blasting. Like that's awesome. Like, oh, I'm being eaten by a ghost. So anyways, I just started blasting. And then yeah, we get to see more of these characters' interactions in the second chapter. That's what most of the second chapter is. Like without spoiling it too much, most of the second chapter is basically more world building, setting up these two characters and how their interactions with each other are, introducing like more of the world of this ghost fixers, like how their school life is and stuff, and then setting up for the next ghost. But yeah, I thought this was really good. I liked it. I know some people are kind of sick and tired of seeing like Exorcist series when it comes to Shonen Jump. I love it. Like, just give me more. I know like a lot of people like they're trying to kind of cash in on the whole like Jujutsu Kaisen and Chainsaw Man and stuff like that, but that's fine by me. Like, I love this genre. I love ghost fighting, monster fighting. I've said it before in like other videos, but for anyone who's like new, I absolutely love like reading about stuff like on the occult, the supernatural, the paranormal, stuff like that. It's always interested me. And like one of my favorite genres ever is monster hunting. I guess you can say like stories where we have characters fighting ghosts, fighting demons, fighting aliens, fighting some kind of supernatural, paranormal, enemy. Stuff like that has always been like something that I love. Like, so for example, I do a lot of comic book reviews. I'm someone that I lean towards Justice League Dark as opposed to Justice League. I'm someone that prefers Constantine, Hellblazer over Superman, Batman. Like, I love the more supernatural aspects. So keep giving me more of this stuff and I'll keep guzzling it down. But yeah, that's Ghost Fixers. It's an awesome series so far. I really enjoyed it. Hopefully you guys will too. If you want to read it for yourself, I'll leave a link down in the description below. But go check it out. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed and hope to see you next time. Take care. Later. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't, I still want to thank you for watching it this far. And I hope the next one is more to your liking. With that said, thank you once again. And I hope you guys and gals have a good one. Later.